Okay, so what does it actually look like if someone wants to get their artwork, get their new restaurant, get their event, or get their data sets into TinyTown, into the digital element of this built model? Well, we thought we could leverage the existing permitting and licensing practices that the City of Toronto has in place. That means visiting permits and licenses on your homepage and selecting TinyTown. And from there, the user would be prompted to submit an application request to get their, let's say, event into TinyTown. So we're greeted with a standard form, and just fill it out here, and we can see that today the person applying to have their event live inside the digital TinyTown is Marcus. Marcus was one of our personas. He's the film and graphical creative who also happens to be Indigenous. And the event he's having is a powwow. It's being hosted at the Harbourfront Center concert stage. It's September 1st and it's at 4 o'clock. So by providing the city with this information, they can sort of vet the event and make sure everything's squared up and then choose whether or not to include it. Marcus also has the option of attaching some files. So let's do that. We're going to attach a photo today related to the powwow. This could be anything though. It doesn't have to be a photo. It could be an audio clip. It could be some kind of 3D render that will appear in the augmented reality portion. Could just be general information. It's really up to the end user. Click next. And then it's just a case of choosing the dates, right? Because you may not want to always have this in TinyTown, but then some things might be ongoing and you do want them forever. There's also an opportunity to make a fee structure, right? Where depending on how many days you pick, this will cost more or less money. And then the user gets a preview of what they're about to do. So they're having an event here at the Harbourfront Center stage, and it's the annual Fall Powwow competition, right? And this tray here, or this card, is what people will see when they hold their phone up to the model and check out what's happening at this place in Toronto at a given time. And we'll just proceed to payment, and we're all done. Now that Marcus has uploaded his event to the TinyTown servers, he can go and visit the model and, using the AR experience, actually locate his event by pointing his phone at the Harbourfront Center. And anyone else who is navigating the menus and looking for this kind of thing has the opportunity to stumble upon it as well. And you can see that here's our event, here's another event just north of it, but today we're going to check out Marcus's powwow. And there's all the information that Marcus uploaded. People can buy tickets, people can save the event, share it with a friend, and this is now accessible to anyone visiting TinyTown. Let's take a deeper look at the AR experience and see how it works for different personas. We will look at how a developer could use TinyTown with augmented reality, how a tourist looking for things to do could use TinyTown augmented reality. Then we will look at people with an interest in history who just want to learn about the past of Toronto. And we're going to look at citizens of Toronto who just want to explore a little and do things like finding their own home inside the model. And at this point, I do want to remind everybody that these user flows, these use cases, are all derived from actual user needs as expressed through the personas. For anyone who's not sure, augmented reality, it's kind of like VR, except without the complete immersion through blackout goggles that only show what's going on. So everything is real, you're actually seeing things and you're interacting with actual built things, but you're getting extra information, whether it's through a screen or through your cell phone. And in this case, it's through your cell phone. So the cell phone will be pointed at the model, and then certain overlays and information and graphics will become visible. Okay. So the way that would work in this design is that first you would scan a QR code somewhere in the environment. Could just be on like a a display or on a poster, or maybe on somewhere on the side of the model. Then once you scan that, it will open up your browser, and your browser will load a program called Eighth Wall. And once they do that, they'll be asked for permission to use their camera, right? Because the camera is going to look at the model. So click OK. And then we got Welcome to Tiny Town. So once we load it up, you'll get the basic UI here. We can see things like the weather. We have a hamburger menu for just app info. But really, the heavy lifting is done by that tray along the bottom. So you'll see some of the different top-level workflows that relate to specific user personas and specific user needs, these sort of main categories that we feel people will want to enter this AR environment through. So, you have people who just are looking for things to do, people who are looking for city development, and people who are looking for geographic data, and then people who are looking for history and culture. Okay, and again, this is based on the user research, based on what we have identified as people needing to do through the app. So let's look at the city development workflows. So once you press city development, you're now in that mode. Okay, and we can close the accessibility tray as we explore here. So I move the cell phone around, it will start to see buildings and identify buildings, right? And once we do that, once it locks on, if you flip the tray up, you'll see, okay, we've locked onto a building, and it's the CN Tower, and we get some very basic info, and then, such as the location, address, and name of the building. And if we slide the tray up, we'll get even more detailed information about this. That could include what to do there, what it's for, the size of it, and so on. But we're not looking for information on the CN Tower today, so we'll slide that away, and we'll keep exploring, see what other buildings we can identify. All right, so we've identified the Sky Dome, and it plays this nice little audio clip there. You can see that we're in the quick facts, but along the bottom, there's another tab, and we can switch over to the property rights. This might contain more detailed information that architects and developers and builders and engineers would need to source. So let's click that now. And you can see that there are different options available to this developer. And the top one right now is air rights. It was expressed to us that air rights is the kind of information that could be very difficult to visualize, and also just difficult to find the information. So we will toggle on the air rights, and they'll just sort of draw in over top, and then we can slide our tray down and have a good look. And because we are now in the air rights visualizer, we can pull the tray back up, and that will give us really specific information about the air rights, like sometimes they're shared, who owns them, and not just where they are, things that are not so easily visualized. And as you focus the camera, or the center of the phone camera, on different elements, then we can display relevant data, so height, width, depth, angles, things like that, which may be valuable to the users of this information. And as the user moves their camera around and views the building from different angles, the 3D representation of the air rights will move with it. And this can be really useful if you're trying to see like sight lines, skylines, line up building lines, roof lines, that sort of thing. And then once the user has found the information they need, they can click the share icon, and your typical default phone's sharing screens come up. So let's choose to email it, and it will prepare a PDF with this information. Maybe a short video could be recorded, and that will be sent off to email for their own records. If you look at the top of the screen right now, you'll see a spinning Raptors logo. So what could that mean? Maybe we should explore a little bit, look around the map and see what that's all about. And we've got 3D Raptors rampaging across the city. visible through the AR environment. So maybe this happens when the Raptors score some points, when they're on a roll, when they win. Maybe it could just be random, but we want it to be true to the existing practice in Tiny Town for including these sort of Easter eggs and Raptors throughout the city, because we love that, and the people we spoke to loved it as well. Okay, so now we're going to look at another workflow. This time we're going to explore the things to do workflow. So once you pull that up, you can see that there's different categories within things to do. We've got entertainment, hidden gems, popular spots, and tourism. And again, these domains, these categories, they were developed from the personas, right? They were based on identified user needs. These categories exist to allow people to do the things that they need to do. So in this case, we're going to check out popular spots. Okay, so once you click popular spots, you get the choice of indoor and outdoor. Today we're going to choose outdoor. All right, and so right away, we see some pins start to drop. And you know, the Sky Dome has semi-outdoor events, right? When the dome's open. And it's starting to identify parks, dropping pins for me. Okay, I see a park here, and that area looks interesting. So I'm going to go in and tap on it. And then we can see, okay, that's HTO Park. Right? And it loads up a visual, loads up some info. I can send this info, I can scroll different images, I can mail it to myself, save it for later, pin it on my Google Maps, whichever, right? And I can even explore a little bit. So through APIs, we're able to pull info straight from Google Maps. So in some cases, you know, the information we need already exists, and we can use that in the AR environment. Okay, as we're scrolling around, there's a park near the Roundhouse, right? So if we tap on that, okay, the Roundhouse will pop up. So now we've got that visual. And suppose I want to know how far it is from one to the other. You know, we can get routes. We can get walking routes that explain that to us. You know, if you're going outside, chances are you're going for a stroll. You can see where you can go. Okay, the next workflow we're going to look at would be for, well, let's pull up the tray first. The next workflow we're going to see is history and culture. Okay, so again, a lot of users expressed an interest in seeing like the historicity of Toronto. So when we pull that up, we get a little arrow that kind of tells us where to find items that are history and culture nearby. So this has directed us to the closest one, which is the railway lands. Okay, so I can scroll through the different railway lands photos. Okay, and I can pull one up, and we can actually overlay the photo onto the city. Right? So these historical photos will overlay, and this is a huge photo, but it could be just one building, right? It could be one road, right? Any photo in the archives we can add to the AR experience and sort of use it as an overlay here to see how the city has developed. That could include changes to waterways, right? So covering up creeks or changes to the Don River over the years. That could include Indigenous land rights. It can also be used for mapping historical events, population changes. So really a flexible tool here, and really one that also sort of shines in the if it's opened up to end users who can sort of come and create their own projections, their own overlays that they can share with the world for research or just for fun or for whatever needs people have. The last workflow we're going to explore is the Find My Home workflow. It was one of the top requested things that people wanted to do, which was, where do I live in the city? Where's my home? And, you know, one thing we noticed was that there were a lot of people whose houses weren't on the model, people who consider themselves Torontonian, because the model does only go as far north as Bloor, and east and west, it's the Don Valley and Ossington. So what happens if you want to find your home and it's not there? Or actually, what happens when you want to find any address? Let's look at that. Start by sliding out the side panel and tapping search and pop in your address. Okay, and send out a search for that. The user will get an arrow that directs them to where to go. The further it is, the longer it is. The arrow closer is shorter. And then once you get there, you locate it, the icon changes to tell you that you found it. And then you can tap. That'll zoom you in, and that will give you sort of a detailed view. And you can tap again on your specific building, and that will access the Toronto Open Data dataset catalog. Tell you everything you need to know about a given location, where to find it, what it is, all that stuff. If the building is not part of the built environment, it will still find it, right? It will just find it in the extended AR. So you won't be able to walk up to it, although you can still zoom in on it as we've done here.